We're live. Okay. So, let's see, where are we? On the Facebook page. Okay, the live icon is there. Now we wait for the video. There it is. It's always one at a time.
Yeah.
It's like you see that we're live, but you don't see the live feed yet. And then you have to reload it again. Then there's the live feed. Okay, and it looks like our volume is working this week. Right off the bat.
Great. Few checks. before we
Good,
start.
okay, so we've checked it all.
Awesome.
All right, well, good morning and welcome back to another WCN Live here in the Wilson County News Break Room. I'm your usual host, Julia, the Marketing and Social Media Specialist.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Kristen Weaver, Director of Operations.
And today we are joined by...
Amanda Velasquez. I am actually the Outreach Coordinator for CASA of South Texas.
And I'm JT Scheck-Snyder. I'm the CASA case supervisor for Wilson and Karnes counties.
Awesome. And so today we're going to be learning from them all about what CASA of South Texas is, what they do and how they're able to do it, why it's important, and more. So that said, be sure to ask any questions that you have for them while they're on camera in the comments. And I'm sure y'all may want to check back in those comments just in case y'all have questions after the show. Just so that, they can answer them, but also because your comments enter you to win our comment contest. So after we talk about the sponsor of today's video, I'm going to explain a little bit about that and we'll draw today's winner. But thank you to Price, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep in Floresville, Texas for sponsoring today's video and many others. They're located on Highway 181 South coming into Floresville on your right side if you're coming from north, from San Antonio area. And they're before you get to Walmart. So you can stop in there to shop cars or careers because they are hiring for all positions. And you can also do the same at pricecdrj.com. So thank you, Price. And now moving on to our comment contest. So I mentioned you might want to comment on today's video because it'll enter you to win next week's comment contest. So every week while we're live, our guests in the audience have the opportunity to comment on our video while we're live. And if they do so, their names are entered to win. So then we draw from the pool of people who commented during the next live video to see who won from the last video's comment section. So would one of you like to draw today's winner?
For sure.
All right.
Let's see. So this is the lucky.
Yes, the lucky.
Go to the bottom of the
Sarah
bowl.
lucky
bowl.
bowl.
The lucky salsa bowl.
That's awesome. Okay.
Excellent.
So I'll just hand it to you.
All right. And let's see who it is. Dolores Viagran Hancock.
Wow, it's a different
Oh,
name.
yeah, I don't know that I've ever
Congratulations.
seen you in our comment section before. So first time's luck, is that what it is? Beginner's luck? That's what it's called.
Good.
Beginner's luck. Congrats to Dolores Hancock. If you know her, tag her in the comments so she knows she won. But if you are seeing this now, Dolores, be looking out for a Facebook message from us explaining how to pick up your prize, which is a C Street Gift Shop gift bag. And speaking of those gift bags, that is also next week's prize. So again, be sure to comment today if you want to win next week.
All right.
And thank y'all for joining us. So let's get started with who are you and where are you from? Are you from Wilson County? Are you from San Antonio? What's up?
Yeah. So I am actually from Poteet, Texas, so still in Atascosa County.
Okay.
I lived there, went to high school, graduated, and I moved so far to Pleasanton. And so I've been a resident in Pleasanton ever since. Went to school in San Antonio after high school, and I have been living in Pleasanton, so I get to serve the children of Atascosa County, Wilson County, LaSalle, Frio, Karnes. But it's actually so rewarding because I'm from the area that we get to service. So I love it. It brings a different feeling to it because, these kids are not just kids on a list to us. They could be cousins, grandmas, friends. They're from our area. We're really making a difference in our town.
With the people that you know
Yes.
and have grown up with.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. That's really special.
Nice.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. How about you?
So I am originally from Ingleside and Corpus Christi area down south, but born and raised in Texas. I've lived in San Antonio, between San Antonio and Floresville, Since 2014, so almost 10 years.
Wow, congrats.
Love it here. I've been in social services since 2016. The last 4.5 of those years have been out here in Floresville in Wilson County.
Working with CASA.
2 years with CASA. I was a CPS caseworker before I came to CASA.
Wow.
So.
Okay, and so you mentioned what each of you do with CASA. Do you mind if I ask how each of you found CASA and why you chose it?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like in the weirdest way CASA found me. I know that sounds so weird, but I was looking through the newspaper, the Pleasanton Express, and and I was sitting at our local chamber in Pleasanton, and the chamber president and I were just chit-chatting and reading the newspaper, and I saw this job description. I was like, there's no way that's a job. There is no way that I would get to, because the job description just sounded so, it was plan events, help with recruiting, help in your community, and it's like, there's no way that's a job though. Like,
Yeah, that sounds like a volunteer.
Right.
yeah, it does. It does. And so she, Miss Cindy Mum said, you would be perfect at that. And I was like, I think I would. And it said work from home, and I was like, there's no way that this is. So
Too good to be true.
I think I emailed her, and I said, is this position still open? That was to Joni. She, there in Pleasanton, and she was like, yep, it sure is. Turned in my resume, and I had seen CASA signs, but I never knew exactly what it was. But again, it's one of those things that I always saw their sign with the blue, just like this, blue and red. So I would see it, it was very familiar, but I never realized what exactly a CASA was. So yeah, I feel like I said, I feel like it kind of found me just looking through the newspaper and saw this job that seemed too good to be true. Get to work from home, get to help community, get to plan events, help with recruiting volunteers, which it's all very rewarding. And like I said, it turned out to be one of the best things ever. I come from marketing, corporate life. I did Methodist marketing, which is, corporate health, corporate, and going to a small town kind of job where I'm actually impacting my community members it's just the best.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that does
Incredible.
sound kind of rewarding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how about you? How did you make the switch to CASA? Yeah.
I worked Wilson County Child Protective Services. I also worked in Bexar County Child Protective Services before transferring out here. And so I know multiple levels of the child welfare system, but there were times when I would go to court as a legal caseworker and I couldn't advocate for what I felt was right for the child. And so there were times when I had to partner with the CASA advocate to get things court order for the department to cover for some of our kids, because whatever they needed may have been against policy for the department to pay for, etc. There's a lot of different bureaucratic things that go on when you work for a legal entity. And I built a good relationship with my predecessor, and when she stated that she was leaving, she asked if I was interested in moving over, and I said yes, and I applied, and the rest is history. And I get to go to visit with my kids, get to work with volunteers and families, and do everything I love doing. But I don't have the constraints of the state of Texas saying you can't, if
and
that makes
you
sense.
get to have like a direct hand still in providing that kid with the legal assistance and the what is it, advocacy
The advocacy,
that
yes.
they need, deserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that said,
Yeah.
can we talk about what exactly is
That's what I'm thinking.
CASA of South Texas? It feels like we've been kind of leading up
Yeah.
to
Let's tell them what it
defining
is.
what it is that y'all do. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So CASA of South Texas We're the voice of children that are in the foster care system. We work with kids and families to make sure, I like to say that we're sort of a checks and balances for the department. Because like I just said, sometimes the department doesn't have the ability to provide everything that a child in care needs, which we can all imagine can be a great deal sometimes. And so we like to be able to be on as many of the child's cases as possible, of the children that are in foster care. We work with volunteers. So it's not me, a paid staff member, going in and working with all the kids. I do work with them, but it's really the volunteers that go in and work hand in hand with our foster kids and help assess their needs and their wants. And sometimes those align and sometimes they don't, but we try to make the best judgment by working with multiple professionals that are working with the kids as well, different attorneys, different caseworkers. Like, it's a whole community of people
that are helping this one child.
Yes.
Yeah, takes a village, right?
It really does. It really does.
Yeah. Okay, and so what I'm understanding is you collect this base of volunteers that the volunteers as individuals serve for advocates for the children in court.
Absolutely.
So, okay, is there what are the requirements to be a volunteer? Like, what do you need to be able to do to be a child advocate?
Well,
So even though you are a volunteer, you still go through a screening.
Okay.
So background screenings, we want to make sure that although you are volunteering your time, it is somebody that can help the child and make sure that their background is clear. We do fingerprints. We just say you have to have a heart, right?
Yeah.
But we do make sure that it is somebody that can
Safely be around
children.
Yeah.
And you just know, I don't know, there's something about, I always say it, teachers, people who are around kids, like, those are like some of my favorite volunteers, is the ones that have been around kids, who've seen the signs.
They understand how to interact with them.
Yes,
too.
absolutely. And so a volunteer does fill out an application, so you can find that on our website at CASASouthTexas.org. You can apply to be a CASA volunteer and then go through the process. You meet with JT, you do an interview. So you're a volunteer, but there are still just like certain criteria that we look for in our volunteers to make sure we're giving the children the best.
Right, making sure that person you're pairing up with the child isn't going to further harm.
Yes,
or
absolutely.
cause any more trouble than is currently going on in that kid's life. Yeah. Okay.
and
so
can I just touch base really quick on that?
absolutely.
One of the things, whenever you sign up to be a volunteer, we like to say we are a constant in that child's life during the pendency of a case. I've had cases that, typically last 12 months. Some go 18, some are longer. But during that time frame, the child can have multiple caseworkers. Usually the attorneys that we have out here are a good core group of attorneys, but sometimes that changes as well. But our CASA advocates are the constant. And so placements change, caseworkers change, there's so much change. There's times that they're, with family members and that may not work out. Hopefully it does. We keep our fingers crossed and try our best to provide as much as we can for the families. But the CASA really is a constant for our kids. So we do ask for commitment is the biggest thing.
Right. And
that we ask for.
As a court-appointed special advocate, what would a CASA volunteer actually do? What do you do when you are a child advocate? What responsibilities are you going to be signing up for?
So there are, and we provide the training. I want to say it was 30 hours of training for our volunteers, showing maybe a little bit more, showing exactly how to navigate this process. I'm actually a volunteer as well, working for CASA. We are volunteers too, so we have cases, and I think that was what I was kind of nervous about, was how am I, who I'm, unlike JT, I don't have a background in this. I don't know what
is going on.
What to
what
do.
is this court?
And I remember in training hearing we had to prepare documents for court, and I was thinking,
scary.
oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, but
if you mess up, do you get arrested?
I know.
Typos. Yeah.
So it did seem a little intimidating, like how can I be the person that's doing this? But we have such a great team. I just last night emailed one of our ladies at the office asking for help with something. So for one, there's plenty of resources and everybody's willing to help you succeed for the best interest of the child. Checking in and just talking to the children. So like JT mentioned, we are court appointed, so we're not being paid by anybody on that side of things. And just really listening. I didn't know where to start. I remember looking in our system, I found the contacts for the children, and I was like, oh, here it goes. Dial the number. Hi, my name is Amanda Velasquez. Just asking them how their day was, checking in on them, of course making sure that they're being taken to their doctor's appointments, they've had their teeth cleaned, they got enrolled in school, how are their classes, how is their schedule, did you get to go to athletics, are you going to be in band, hey, I saw you were tardy, because we get to check in with the school and make sure that they're going to all of their classes, their grades are good. Just being, I'm a mother of 6, and I just kind of feel like I am a mother. I have 3 children on a case, so I feel like I have 9 kids now, and I'm just constantly asking the same questions to those kids. Of course, we check in with the with our attorney, like he said, with the attorneys. We check in with the caseworkers, but our biggest priority is the children, and that's where we want to. That's what we listen to. Sometimes, and most of the times, our priority is the best interest of the child, what's the safest route for the child. We hope that it is, with their family, somebody adopting them in their family. But as long as they're safe and as long as we're hearing them out, I think that it makes them feel better about their situation. Because, they don't ask to be put in those situations. Nobody asks to be taken away from their family. But as a volunteer, it's our job. We get to talk to them through it, be with them, be consistent. And anybody can do it. I'm telling you, I really was scared. And just last night, I emailed asking, hey, am I doing this right? I don't want to get arrested. So anybody can do it. You just have to do it. You just have to want to do it.
Okay. And so, I understand why, I can see why these individuals are important, and like you said, there's so much change going on in their lives. They may not even be in the home that they were growing up in, removed from everything else and from these constants that they're used to having, and now this CASA advocate, this volunteer, is one of the only things that remains constant through this process. So wow, that's amazing that y'all are doing that. So can you give us a rundown on the history of CASA? How did the organization come to do all of this here in South Texas?
Yeah, so CASA is a part of a national movement. Started in the 70s out of Seattle, Washington, and has become, across the nation. The first chapter of CASA was founded the first Texas chapter of CASA was in Dallas back in the 80s. Our program, I can't remember the exact year, but it's been over 20 years our program has been in our counties.
At the Wilson County, Carnes
Wilson, Carnes, Frio, LaSalle, and Atascosa. So we cover 5 counties, but we're one of 73 programs in the state of Texas.
Wow.
So there's a very large presence.
That's good.
Representing the kids in the state of Texas. There's over 24,000 kids in foster care in Texas. So our program is serving well over 100 of those kids. Wilson County alone, we're at 18, and we have a waiting list
Oh my gosh.
of, I believe there were 8 when I checked yesterday, that were waiting for CASA advocates.
And so that's where you need the volunteers to
Right.
be able to provide. And I understand from what you were saying that one volunteer can take on multiple cases. And of course, that may not be within, the reasonable limits of each volunteer to do,
Right.
handle multiple cases, multiple children at one
Right.
time. But I understand, so that is a position, that volunteer
Right.
at CASA that is in high demand, it seems like.
It is. Our goal is always, there might be 5 kids on one case. So it depends on the ability of the volunteer and what they're comfortable with. I'm not going
Right.
to ask a
'Cause you
volunteer to
maybe
take
have
on
more
more.
siblings, or that
Right.
don't.
Right.
I didn't even
So,
think about that. That makes so much sense. Okay.
yeah. So the I try really hard to keep a 1-to-1 ratio as far as cases to volunteer.
Yeah.
So that that volunteer can dedicate their time that they're giving to that family. We do have a couple of volunteers in Wilson and Karnes counties that have a couple of cases, but I have very detailed conversations with them before taking that on to make sure it's something that they are able and willing to do. But our preference is typically a 1-to-1 because we
Yeah.
want to make sure that these kids are, that have had so much taken away from them, have someone dedicating to them.
Right. And so, speaking of the kids, how does CASA of South Texas identify the children that are in need? Do families come to you? Do you typically get reached out to from like the foster care system, from the court?
Yeah, what's the process?
So we are court appointed.
Okay.
So we don't. I will talk to families that are not
Yeah.
in
Not
CPS
yet.
care, and if I can provide some sort of resource, of course I'm going to. But our focus really is children that are in foster care. So we are court appointed, and the criteria really is just that they're in foster care. We
Okay.
really try hard to be on all of the cases if we have the volunteers able
And
to do so.
And just to elaborate what JT was talking about, so we will have a judge ask if we could provide a CASA to a case. So if the judge sees, okay, this is happening on this angle, this is happening on this angle, is there a way we could get a CASA appointed to this specific case? And I think that's pretty much how we get on them. Unfortunately, you can't request
Yeah.
a CASA. We can't pick the cases that we get put on. But if the judge is asking for a CASA, then we're going to try to find a CASA for that case.
And I have had caseworkers from the department, which has gone through a transition out here in our county to a private organization. And we're working hand in hand with the private organization to make sure that the needs of the kids are met. But I've had caseworkers reaching out as well, asking, hey, we have this kiddo that came into care, and he doesn't have a CASA. Is there something we can do?
Yeah.
And I try really hard to work with
Those
everyone
kinds of
involved to
solutions. Yeah.
make those requests happen. But our organization relies heavily on the generosity of individuals donating their time.
Absolutely. It really does seem like that. It is all leaning on these volunteers
Yeah.
and on y'all to recruit them.
And we're forever grateful for our volunteers.
Oh, yeah,
We have a
I'm sure.
great group of volunteers.
And I'm sure the kids are grateful for them
Yes.
too.
Absolutely.
And so as a volunteer, I understand you're checking in a lot with these kids. It can get pretty personal. But I also understand you mentioned going to court with them, helping them prepare documents, stuff like that. Can you tell us more about what a volunteer would need to be prepared to do as far as, are they going to need to have a safe place to keep, important documents? Are they going to need to be you know, having a suit ready to go on the fly to go to court? Like, well,
No.
how does that work? Yeah.
So our documents are in a secure system, so they review documents through our database.
Okay.
They can go to, if they need to read the case file that the department has, they can request to meet with the caseworker
Okay.
to read those case files,
So you
to go
really
in
won't be
person.
bringing anything
You don't,
like that home.
you know, you have your notes, but
Yeah.
usually those need to be kept in a safe
Yeah.
area, a secure area, or destroyed after you enter them into our system.
Fair.
But as far as random court hearings, we do get a baseline of court hearings. They're usually every 2 to 4 months. So you're not gonna
Yeah.
get a call and say, hey, there's court tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll have some
Yeah.
time to plan for it.
Right.
Okay.
So like today I have a random court hearing that I didn't plan for, but I've had a week and a half notice.
Okay.
So it's not,
Yeah.
you know, they're not going to just say, hey, you need to be there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
you know? So you have time to prepare, and I like to reach out and have my volunteers that I work with reach out to me before court so we can talk about the case and what we're hoping for and what we need to advocate for, etc. So
Yeah.
the volunteer's not going to be at court alone.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's reassuring.
their supervisor, so myself, or if they're in a different county, that county supervisor will be with them.
Right.
So there's support
Yeah,
at
support
all
for the
levels.
kids.
So in court, how does advocating work? Are you going to be speaking with or for the child, or like?
It's a prepared document.
Okay.
We prepare it beforehand. JT, whoever the case supervisor is, will review that document before, just to make sure we have exactly what we're gonna say.
Yeah.
The judge will get our documents beforehand and review. We're just there for if questions are coming up during the hearing,
Okay.
to kind of elaborate if the judge is asking a little bit more about what we've commented
In that
on our
document.
documents. So everything's done. We're prepared before going in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're not going to be
Yeah.
like on the stand necessarily.
Mhm.
Being
Like
questioned.
bombarded with
Yeah.
attorneys.
It's
Yeah,
more
no.
of like a casual conversation between the judge who's trying to find out more information
To make a
from
decision.
the person who's been getting to know the kid.
Yeah,
Right.
because the judge,
Okay.
a judge is
Right.
listening to CPS. They're listening to attorneys that are representing the biological mother, the biological father. They're listening to foster homes, like placements. So you have placements, CPS workers. You have attorneys that are in the best interest of mom, of dad, of grandma, of grandpa, and then you have CASA, which is in the best interest of the child themselves, who is not being paid, who is solely volunteering their time because they genuinely care for the child.
Right.
So that's where we get to come in. We get to speak for the child, and not for all of those other.
Right.
Yeah.
And that sucks too, that kids have to be in those
Yeah.
kinds of situations,
Absolutely.
because I mean, there are a number of reasons that a child can be removed from their home, right? Sometimes custody battles are won, and a lot of that turns into what's best for mom, what's best for dad,
Right.
what makes each one happy, and who deserves it more. But it's not
But who's
one of
looking
those
at
things. Yeah,
the
it's
kid.
about
For
the
the
kid
child.
and what happens to them and their feelings. And
Yeah.
that's amazing that y'all are able to provide people who stand up for the kid.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like
Oh my
JT
gosh.
mentioned, there's children that have been passed from a foster home to foster home, or from relative to relative, and they're consistent is their CASA worker. And even if being in court is just seeing that familiar face after being in 7 different foster homes, it's just something we can bring to the table for that kid.
I mean, I have a small example of that. I have a kid that was in a foster home for 2 years. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to stay in that home, and I went to go see him right after he was placed at the new placement. And this was the first time that I've worked with them since he moved,
Yeah.
or since I came over to CASA, sorry. So right after he moved and I show up, he was like, I didn't think you were going to be able to see me anymore.
Aw.
And I was like, no, anywhere you go.
Oh.
Anywhere.
My job is to advocate for you, to visit with you, to see what your needs are, and to make sure that those are being addressed. And so if you're in Houston,
Yeah.
I'll be going to Houston.
Wow.
If you're in San Antonio,
Oh, wow.
it'll save me 2 hours, but I'm going.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do volunteers, I guess, do they absolutely always stay attached to their child who they're advocating for if the child is placed like very far away? What happens?
The type of contact may change.
Okay.
So if they're, say, in Houston, for example, because we also don't have a lot of placements in this area,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So,
They get moved.
they do get moved throughout the state. But if they're over a certain distance away, you work with your supervisor. There can be, I believe Houston is every 3 month in person.
Okay.
And then, but you still do phone calls and video calls, and you still check in on that child constantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, even though they're not right here next to you,
You're still
you
keeping
still
up with
keep
all
up with
stuff.
them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do volunteers need to be prepared to be responsible for transportation costs and stuff like that?
CASA does cover a certain amount
Yeah.
of transportation, so they would just need to get with their supervisor before to determine if, because if if statutes say that or policy says that they are an every 3 month visit, then CASA may only cover every 3 months to go visit, but
Sure,
there's
but if they-
exceptions to be
yeah.
made all the time. So
Yeah,
That makes sense.
if you
Like,
go
maybe
more
something
frequently,
more
talk
urgent
to us.
happens, so
Yeah.
we need to go sooner.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we do cover transportation expenses as long as it falls within policy.
Wow.
But like I said,
Yeah.
we're always trying to accommodate, and if something happens, like you stated, we're willing to work.
Absolutely. Good deal. So I know you mentioned getting involved as a volunteer, that there is a form on the website, which is
Yes.
CASASouthTexas.org. Okay.
Yes, so people can go on there and not everybody can volunteer. I mean, there's people that work 2 jobs who have, tons of responsibility, and they still want to give, and they still feel it on their heart to be involved in some way. You can visit our website. There's plenty of ways. As JT mentioned, sometimes our kids do get relocated to other states, and so,
Yeah.
well, I think states, cities, and one way we're able to, people can help us is donating for mileage reimbursement, so we could send that volunteer to that place.
Yeah.
And all of that is on our website, so feel free, log on CASASouthTexas.org. You can apply to be a CASA. We'll reach out to you with an interview time. We'll start the background screenings, get the training going.
Yeah.
We will figure out somewhere that you can help us. Even if it's just sending us an opportunity to present, sending us, hey,
Yeah.
we're having this event going on. Would you like to come out and pass out brochures or
Yeah,
set up
get
a
the
tent?
word out
Yes,
about CASA and
absolutely.
what you
Let
do.
me know. Again, all of our contact information is on our website. Even if it's just inviting us to speak somewhere, to be somewhere, a donation or volunteering. We'll take it all.
That's awesome. And so CASASouthTX.org
Yes.
Yep.
is the website, and I just commented that. Oops,
Right.
from my personal, not from Wilson County.
Sorry.
Sorry, I forgot to switch the profile. But it's in the comments, so you can find that. Y'all are also tagged in the description of this
Wonderful.
video, so
Perfect.
if y'all feel, the urge to go check them out and learn more about them, their Facebook page is tagged here. And I'm sure y'all will be in the comments later,
Absolutely.
so you'll be able to find them that way. You've got a lot of people telling you thank you for what you do, that y'all are a great
Oh,
organization.
Thanks
So
for
you want
watching.
to-
Thank
yeah.
you.
I know.
And so, I guess where we can go for more information about CASA South Texas would be that same website.
Absolutely. Call us. We'll drop our numbers in the comments
All right.
as well. Call us, text us, email us, message us. Like I said, we're here. We would love to have you on our team in any way, shape, or form that may be. So
Great.
we'll take it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank y'all so much for joining us today and
Yes.
telling us about what you do, what
Mhm.
CASA does, and what the individual CASAs do, and how to
That's
become
amazing.
one. And wow.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
telling
you so
your
much
story.
for having
Yeah.
us. This is, we were super excited. Whenever JT messaged me, I'm like, yes, let's do it. Any way to
That's good.
get out there, in front of people and share what we do, what it is that we do, or how they can help. It's always great.
What they
Yeah,
need
that
is.
is amazing what y'all do, and
Thank you.
for being here, sharing with our
Mhm.
audience. We hope that you guys learned something interesting from today's conversation. Maybe you're inspired to help out and want to go check them out on Facebook or at CASASouthTX.org.
Right.
But thank you all so much for your time today, for the
Thank you.
information you shared.
Thank you.
We hope, again, that y'all learned something.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us. And thank you to Price, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep for sponsoring today's video. They are now like kind of a part of this whole thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yay, Price for supporting
I know,
CASA.
thank you, Price.
It's awesome. So visit pricecdrj.com if you'd like to shop cars or careers online, but don't forget they also have an in-person location on Highway 181 South coming into Floresville from further north on your right-hand side before you hit Walmart, like right before.
Mhm.
So don't forget to stop in and visit them. And as a plus, if you are looking at purchasing a vehicle from them or you want to stop in and say hi, don't forget they have free coffee in the back. So you can always pick some up. Thank you to Price. And again, thanks to last week's comment contest winner, Dolores Hancock. Again, remember that if you'd like to win this week's contest, comment in these last few moments while we're still live. Even if it's just a thumbs up. But thank you guys for joining us today, and we hope to see you back next week for another episode of WCN Live, Wednesdays at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you
We'll
then.
see you then.
Thank you.